Hello and welcome once again to the next installment of our Darkest Dungeon theory crafting series, where we figure out what kind of makeovers our missing Darkest Dungeon heroes would need to fight with the best of them in Darkest Dungeon 2. To do this, we go over the stats and attacks of our heroes from the first game, and then speculate on not only how their original skills would be translated, but also what new skills they would acquire. To keep things simple, health and speed are determined by using the closest level comparison between the Darkest Dungeon 2 characters in their previous versions, resulting in us using the second highest and lowest values respectively. Resistances are kept the same for simplicity, with the burn resistance determined based on the class itself. As a plus, we'll be developing new character features for each class that change the way they are played, similar to how the Occultist gets to stand out amongst the veterans with his shiny new unchecked power token. These custom abilities exist to upgrade their playstyle and provide the cutting-edge tools needed to declare war on the various evils you may encounter. And with that out of the way, let's introduce the Houndmaster. The Houndmaster hero was originally a 2-for-1 special that continued the time-honored tradition of the jaded bearded man and scruffy canine combo that originated with pals Grogner and Spot back in the Stone Age. Besides a couple of designated bleed skills that were taught to our scruffy best friend right here to rip apart our enemies in the name of friendship, the Houndmaster was primarily dedicated to providing support to the team and debuffs to the enemies of the lore. Unlike some of the other classes who have yet to migrate to the most darkest of sequels, the original Houndmaster already had a feature that we can use as a basis for our custom gimmick: the oft-coveted Scooby Snack. In the original, every dungeon run that included the Houndmaster would start them off with 2 of these delicious treats that contain all the essential vitamins and minerals to keep your dog's coat shiny and true. It makes perfect sense that, should the Houndmaster return, he would utilize a modified version of this item as a unique class feature. If we want to incorporate the dog treat into our new Houndmaster's playstyle, we'll of course need to make some fundamental changes. To start with, this item would need to be a combat item, that goes without saying, frankly. Additionally, thanks to our longer singular adventures, we'd need to establish a means of snack regeneration as to ensure it's not too scarce. After all, we can't have our girl going hungry, can we? No, to make this manageable, we'd need to give the dog treats their own conditions. Here, we can set it up so that each run starts off with 2 additional treats being provided at each inn. Ensuring that the Houndmaster has frequent access to these is essential in upgrading the class under the gaze of the Mountain of Madness. In the original, these dog treats provided a buff that, for 3 rounds, would see a 50% damage increase and award plus 15 accuracy. Were the Houndmaster to return and recapture that original magic, he'd need a custom token to mirror this intent. As such, we shall be making said custom token here and now and call it Dog Nourishment. And yes, it will be called that for the entire video. This token will only be attainable through the use of the dog snack, which will provide exactly 2 tokens apiece. These tokens would be consumed upon the use of specific dog-based skills. Should the dog become empowered by the dog nourishment, its skills would take on an evolved form. This would expand upon the original purpose of the dog treat, providing a sudden burst of energy to show your opponent how quickly the tide turns. Thanks to its properties as a combat item, the pros are partially balanced already as they take up a precious combat item slot, which could otherwise hold something else like the Salve of Salvation. That being said, it's still necessary to introduce a downside so that these treats are only used at the most opportune times. As such, once the second of the 2 tokens is consumed, a token of weakness will be acquired by the Houndmaster to balance it out. Now that the basics have been established,
it is time for the fluffy girl. Woof woof, buck buck.
We'll start this upgrade from Canis Minor to Canis Major with everyone's favourite skill, Hound's Rush. Hound's Rush was quite the versatile move, which could be used from all but the front position, and hit any enemy of your choosing. Alongside dealing a decent amount of damage, this attack would provide some bleed and was also capable of dealing additional damage against beasts and your marked opponents. Naturally, such an attack was immensely useful in terms of both damage and DOT. It's only fitting that we start our upgraded Houndmaster loadout with such a move. As a standard damage dealing move, this shall be the least modified move and simply comprise of a modified damage amount and deal 3 bleed to the enemy. As an upgraded skill, the damage and bleed DOT would increase alongside an added bonus should the combo token be present. Here it would simply see that the enemy's bleed resistance is reduced. As an attack that distinctly involves the Hound, the dog nourishment token will be used with this skill. In exchange for the use of a dog treat, the base bleed inflicted by the skill would be increased by 1. While already useful on its own, our custom token gives the attack the chance to work wonders. Next skill we'll be sinking our teeth into is Hound's Harry, in which the Hound would sink her teeth into all opponents regardless of your own position for a small amount of damage and some bleed. The Harry was always the go-to attack when you wish to weaken all enemies and finish off those close to death. To modify this skill, we'd first need to reduce the number of targets. If the Highwayman's nerfed Grape Shot is any indication, multi-target damaging attacks are having their numbers reduced. For Darkest Dungeon 2, we can assume a reduction to only target the back 3 positions. This ensures the attack remains well suited to taking out those weaker enemies all at once, especially since our foes can now experience the joys of Death's Door. Look at those bastards right there. They make me sick! In an upgraded form, we'd see a minor damage and bleed increase, nothing major there on its own. However, once more, my dear Houndmaster appreciating friends, we may factor in the Dog Nourishment token with an additional effect. When present, the move would have a 50% chance to apply vulnerability to your opponents, and would also remove the weakness token that would otherwise be acquired at the end of the attack. Next up, we have Target Whistle, a skill designed to provide marks to a single opponent for 3 rounds and lower their protection, setting the stage for an ally to make short work of them. A true model of versatility, this skill could be used from any position to target any enemy, ensuring the man-dog combination reigns supreme amongst marking skills. Considering that many updated marking moves in Darkest Dungeon 2 already capture this intent, we can take a different yet still useful approach to modify it. Here, we'll give it the ability to apply the combo token to a given enemy, while also ignoring taunt, allowing you to better orchestrate your plan of attack, even if the next hero in line is unable to carry it out. Should the skill be upgraded, it would also remove taunt from all other enemies, ensuring your team is best suited to lay waste to your foes. Guard Dog provided the Houndmaster the ability to assist the team as a dodge tank, allowing you to guard a teammate and, more often than not, completely avoid the damage meant for them. Once again, the Houndmaster excels with this ability as it could be usable from any position. An additional source of defender tokens, such as this, would greatly expand on our available strategies, and give the Man-at-Arms a break from being smacked over the head repeatedly with a 2x4. For Darkest Dungeon 2, we can set it up in a base form that provides 2 guarded to the chosen ally and 2 evasion tokens to the Houndmaster, mirroring his original form the same way the Man-at-Arms currently does. In an upgraded form, you'd simply see an additional version of each generated. Due to the potency of dodge in this game, we'd inherently need a cooldown for the skill. Now, you may be wondering why in the upgraded form we don't take Evasion Plus, and the answer is simple. Dodge Plus tokens in Darkest Dungeon 2 are complete BS if you happen to get them in large amounts. A 75% chance to negate all damage? When did we become the very monsters we swore to destroy? Plus, that gives us something to use with the Dog Nourishment, which, if consumed in the use of this skill, would give a Dodge Plus token instead, making it a highly useful choice. Next on the list is one of the classics brought to you by Shakespeare himself, Cry Havoc. Now, in the original, this skill could be used to provide all allies some stress heal, although with a chance of not working at all. Now, such probability-based stress heal is strictly forbidden in Darkest Dungeon 2. Barristan thought he could get away with it, but was immediately discovered between patches and had to give it up. But we can still modify this skill to be a unique stress heal option in the game that best represents what its upgraded form would be. Here, we'd have to set it up so it provides a stress heal to the chosen ally, with of course the obvious 5 stress or more requirement, while also removing weakness tokens from all but the Houndmaster himself. Naturally, such a stress heal skill would require a cooldown to ensure that the Jester's terrible jokes can still make the trip interesting. In an upgraded form, the Houndmaster would get a reduced cooldown and a bit of extra stress heal on their ally. Should Dog Nourishment be active, the succulent energy juices flowing through the Hound would provide the party with a 100% stress resistance buff for the coming round, further safeguarding the team and providing a unique stress resistance option for the game. Next up is Lick Wounds, which provided the Houndmaster with the age-old skill known as basic self-preservation. In the original, this would simply heal the Houndmaster for a moderate amount. While not many changes need to be made to this move, we still have to give it the same cruel treatment that all healing moves need to undergo before they are permitted entry. Kind of like if you're only allowed into the hospital after suffering 16 bash wounds to the head. As a moderate self-heal, we can use the changes made to the Leper's Solemnity as a base for how Lick Wounds would act. Here we would have it heal 20% of maximum HP, and have a usage limit of 3. Unlike other healing skills, this one would compensate for its lower healing percentage by only having a 50% health requirement to use. In tandem with our custom token, we can take a page out of the Butcher's Circus book of friendly carnival games to better round out our duo. Should your dog be properly nourished? Then Lick Wounds would provide some regeneration to the Houndmaster, in the form of a 10% health restoration per round for 3 rounds, really upping the healing potential in a pinch. And finally, to finish off our OG skills, we have the stunning skill Blackjack. When in one of the front 2 rows, the Houndmaster had the option to briefly put aside his loyal hound and instead cave in the skulls of his enemies for light damage and a grade 3 concussion, really giving the Houndmaster a bit of extra utility in the form of his nasty stun. Thanks to the rest of society undergoing some interesting changes, we can turn his humble Blackjack into a mighty tool of justice. Naturally, with pretty much all converted skills so far, we'll have to turn the stun into a daze and keep its damage at its pitifully poor value. In its base form, this attack would simply daze and provide a combo token. In an upgraded form, should the combo token already be present on your opponent, it'll instead apply stun as opposed to the combo and daze, further improving the Houndmaster's support capabilities. And now we move on into the new moves. Like with our previous speculation video, we'll be putting together 4 new moves for the Houndmaster that would complement the Houndmaster's intended purpose and playstyle, providing insight into a possible future where he returns to join all of his shiny new friends. Since we are basing our class unique feature on a combat item, the new skills here won't all revolve around said token, but some of them will still incorporate it. So with that, let's give it a go. The first ability to set us off into Scoob's new groove is a supporting attack designed to play into the Houndmaster's role as a dodge tank that we'll call Aggravate. This attack could target any opponent from the back 3 positions, move the Houndmaster forward a position, and be usable from positions 2 and 3. Where this skill would shine is in the tokens it would dish out, providing the Houndmaster with a taunt token and his opponent with blind, setting up the opponent to blunder harder than a Song of Desired antiquarian. And of course, despite the Hounds being the star of this show, we can't leave out the Master part in having distinct new abilities. Using his background as a lawman, we can concoct an interesting position control skill called Stop Right There. This skill would be usable from any position, could target any ally position, and provide an immobilize token to both the Houndmaster and the chosen ally. In an upgraded form, the cooldown on this attack would simply be reduced to 0, allowing you to consistently use the Houndmaster to keep your party's formation as you desire. As is customary for all Darkest Dungeon 2 characters, we need to make sure that the Hound and Master have a real showstopper of an attack. Although not entirely support-based, having a skill like this would certainly pack a punch and provide the Houndmaster with more stopping power. Fittingly, this attack would be called Dogs of War, and would finally see the Hound and Master charge into the fray together. This combination attack would be usable from positions 1 and 2, and deal damage to one target in positions 1, 2, or 3. On its own, this attack would deal a moderate amount of damage, decent bleed, and offer a chance to daze. In an upgraded form, we'd see the damage, crit chance, and bleed increase while the cooldown reduces. Should Dog Nourishment be consumed in the use of this skill, we would see bleed increase by 2. Of course, only the bleed increases with this move, since it would be ridiculous for the Houndmaster to take a bite out of the treat. Even though times are tough, I'm sure he can resist the temptation, right?
I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I need it!
And the final skill we shall give our upgraded Houndmaster is a support skill, designed to both buff your allies and hinder your enemies. This skill will simply be called Fetch and allow the Houndmaster to steal a random positive token from an opponent and give it to a teammate of your choice. Almost as if Dismas's highway robbery skill was subject to the sharing is caring mentality and not the shoot down an unknown carriage for fun and profit one. An interesting type of new move that would definitely suit the Houndmaster should he return. It would be usable from positions 2 and 3 and be capable of hitting any position, both allies and enemies. In an upgraded form, we'd see the number of weakness tokens the Houndmaster acquires reduced, while also having a slight damage and crit chance upgrade. Additionally, should Dog Nourishment be used, this skill would be boosted to the max and allow you to steal up to 3 tokens from your enemy. And so, there we have it. By taking a few liberties, we have reshaped and reforged our champion and his loyal companion in a way that represents what would best suit his Darkest Dungeon 2 form, and fit them into the game as a viable hero. Now that I've shown you my Houndmaster, I'd love to hear yours. Feel free to comment about any changes you'd make to this setup, or if you can see the Houndmaster taking a very different form, I'd love to hear about that too. In our next installment, we'll be taking a look at one of my personal favorite characters, the Shieldbreaker. Thank you for watching, and once again, as always,
Remind yourself to subscribe here and follow on Twitch for more ghoulish horrors.